He had a whole lot of success in Manchester, feels that he should be in the NHL. Edmonton is going to give him a chance to be in the NHL. It will be up to him to show that he's an NHL player.
A mid-first round draft choice who's a combative guy. I don't see why he wouldn't be playing on what right now is a substandard NHL defense. Plus, the Oilers got out from under the Dustin Penner contract.
Okay, to me that's the only benefit is you get cap space.
Right.
And it's a great thing to have cap space if you use it for something. Yeah. The problem is everyone's getting cap space, and the free agent market has nothing coming up. Yeah. So what are you spending the money on with your cap space?
Yeah, I think that if the Oilers' strategy is to get younger and acquire draft picks, then fine. This is okay. Yeah. But it just means that getting better takes longer. And I'd like to see them trade a player for a player.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to happen today.
No,
I think the only guy possibly is Hemsky. It doesn't sound like he's going to be moved. And even then, they'd be looking for a younger player, so one that isn't as productive as Alex Hemsky.
But I mean, that's why we like the Colorado-St. Louis trade, right?
Yeah,
it's not going to affect the playoffs at all.
No.
But it is the most interesting trade that's made because it's good players for good players, young players for young players. Yeah. And those are the ones that you like to try to evaluate. This is tougher.
Well, isn't it the same with the Pittsburgh and Dallas
somewhat,
deal?
Yes.
Good player went for good player. Yeah. Here, if you look at just one thing, you've got, say it's a 20 pick in a weak draft.
Right.
The odds of the 20 to 30 player making it, it's about a 25% for them to be good players.
Right, okay.
20 to 25%.
Yeah.
So it's a 20-25% gamble right there. Yeah. The odds of a number 4 defenseman from Manchester becoming prominent on an NHL defense, probably not great. Yeah. So what's the upside here?
What this deal says to me is that Steve Tambolini is very secure in his job, that it's going to be a long-term process, and he's going to do what he perceives to be the right thing.
Well, once again, this year, the draft is going to be followed very closely in Edmonton. It looks like it could be another number 1 pick, and now, later in the first round, the Oilers are going to be up again. James?
Absolutely. Tons of draft picks for the Edmonton Oilers and the Ottawa Senators, who accumulate a couple more on this day. We're going to take our last commercial break before the deadline at 3 o'clock Eastern. Usually the trades start to pour in as the calls are made just after 3 o'clock. We don't know if they're pour in today, but we do expect lots more as we roll along on Trade Center. Stay with us.
Do you own a home or
quick shot, that's it! Dustin Penner! Dustin Penner puts on the Jets.
10 minutes. 10 minutes now until the deadline. James Duthie back with Craig McTavish, Ray Ferraro, Darren Pang, and a cast of many more here on Trade Center 2011. Only 8 deals in total so far. Remember, last year we had a record 31, 55 players changing teams, players and draft picks. 55 players, and then there were draft picks as well. I lose track of the numbers. So we're not close as far as numbers right now, but we have a major deal in Dustin Penner going to Los Angeles Kings from the Edmonton Oilers. Here's our exact numbers right now: 8 trades, 18 players, and 7 picks involved. And so, as we count down to the deadline, we anticipate calls going on right now. Who do you think has to make a move? Who haven't we heard from enough so far?
Washington Capitals, they need a second-line center. I bet you their coach and staff's probably sitting in the war room right now in Washington watching television saying, please, Mr. McPhee, get us a second centerman.
Yeah, I'll say the Vancouver Canucks. Not that they're as desperate for a second-line center as Washington is, but I think they've got to add somebody in that mix on their fourth line. We've talked about it a lot, and it doesn't even sound significant when you say it that way, except it is an important part. I mean, they're going to need somebody to help kill penalties. If they expect to play a long time in the playoffs, you can't play your top guys 22 minutes a night.
You've got a couple of names to throw out there?
Well, the easy one's Reasoner, of course, because we've talked about that a lot. It's got to be somebody that's strong, somebody that can kill penalties, somebody that can skate.
You know the name you threw out when we were talking on the radio the other day, but I don't think it's going to happen, so I don't want to start a rumor. But Clark MacArthur, if the Leafs didn't sign him and decided to trade him, that would have been a really interesting fit.
Because the other way is that Mason Raymond is
the way they've been playing, but certainly
there's going to be a lot of regret on a lot of these teams making these late season runs, and they call it in finance, when a stock plummet, the dead cat bounce. When it goes straight down, hits, and then there's a little piece where you think you have life, and then it ends up dying at the end. And that's what's going to happen to a lot of these teams, and possibly Calgary too as well, where you know, they're having, it's great for the fans and energizing, but at the end of the day, when you get to that, the minute you walk into that draft, you're faced with the R&R sisters regret and remorse.
We are, gentlemen, coming up on 3 minutes. 3 minutes to the trade deadline. We'll count it down for you, just like New Year's Eve, and have some big annoying horn or something that probably goes off that signals the end of the trading period at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Let's do a quick cross-Canada checkup in that final 3 minutes right now. The Montreal Canadiens have done nothing so far today. That's not shocking to us as to what we talked about. The Toronto Maple Leafs have not done anything. Brian Burke was on a little while ago saying that Clark MacArthur would likely stay with the team, and not much was going on. He was waiting for some calls back. He had offers on MacArthur, but clearly they were not good enough. The Ottawa Senators making that deal with Chris Campoli going to the Chicago Blackhawks. They get for that a Ryan Patolny, a forward, and a second-round pick in 2011. Also a conditional 7th-rounder goes to the Chicago Blackhawks for Campoli. They also pick up Curtis McElhaney, the goaltender, who's moving all over the place the last year or so on waivers from the Tampa Bay Lightning. That lets Robin Leonard go to the minors and play some hockey down there. And, of course, Chris Phillips signing last night. So that's the Eastern Conference. As for the Western Conference, and Vancouver, as we've said, have done nothing yet. So far, the Calgary Flames have done nothing yet. Again, that's not a big shocker. And the Edmonton Oilers, as you know, the deal we just talked about involving Dustin Penner. So I guess are you surprised Montreal hasn't done anything? We talked about their needs coming in. Would you like to see them?
Based on the organizational expectation, I thought they would have done something today. You know, they come in last year, they're the 8th seed, they knock off the 1 seed, they get to the Eastern Conference Final, and everybody's saying, well, this is our chance. They're an older team. The window's shrinking all the time on them. They don't have a ton of young prospects. They should have done something more.
It's not done. We're saying, of course, it could come in after the deadline.
Yeah, it could, but obviously they haven't done a whole lot yet.
Right.
Maybe the biggest thing that hamstrings that organization is they don't have a lot of prospects to trade. How are they going to make their team better? I think they need to go at a big forward. It's pretty tough to do if you don't have any assets to go get one.
Well, we've said that a few times today. The team need a top 6 forward or a second-line center. There's just not a lot out there, is
but
there?
I mean, they wouldn't have had a package to compete with LA.
Right.
If that was the package for Penner, they probably don't have that.
Right. I think in fairness to Montreal,
under a minute now, by the way. Keep going.
In fairness to Montreal, LA's, and we all agree on this, LA's a lot closer to having some extended playoff success than Montreal. And I think at the end of the day, you've got to evaluate